Sarah Collins was 47 years old when she realized she had spent most of her life living for other people. She was a mother, a wife, a daughter, an employee, a person everyone could depend on. But somewhere between paying bills, raising children, cooking dinners, answering emails, and pretending she was fine, Sarah disappeared from her own life. Nobody noticed. Not even Sarah. At least, not at first. For years, she told herself the same things many people tell themselves. One day I'll start. One day I'll travel. One day I'll write that book. One day I'll take care of myself. One day I'll become the person I always wanted to be. But one day slowly became 10 years. Then 20. Then one morning, Sarah looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back at her. Her eyes looked tired. Her smile looked practiced. Her face looked calm, but inside she felt empty. That morning, she was supposed to drive to work like usual. Same road. Same office. Same desk. Same routine. But when she reached her car, she couldn't open the door. Her hand simply froze on the handle. And suddenly, without warning, she began to cry. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just silently. As if something inside her had finally run out of strength. She stood in the driveway with her keys in her hand and whispered, "I can't do this anymore." That was the first honest sentence Sarah had said in years. She called in sick that day. Then she went back inside, sat at the kitchen table, and opened an old box from the closet. Inside were notebooks. Sketches. Half-written stories. Old photographs. Dreams she had packed away because life had become too busy. At the bottom of the box was a letter she had written to herself when she was 19. She almost didn't open it. But something made her unfold the yellow paper. The first line said, "Dear future me, I hope you didn't forget who we wanted to become." Sarah stopped breathing for a moment. Then she read the rest. At 19, she had wanted to write novels. She had wanted to see the ocean in winter. She had wanted to learn photography. She had wanted to build a life filled with meaning, not just responsibilities. By the time she finished reading, tears had fallen onto the page. Because she had forgotten. Not all at once. That would have been easier to notice. She had forgotten slowly. One compromise at a time. One postponed dream at a time. One not now at a time. That evening, her husband Mark noticed something was wrong. "You okay?" he asked. Sarah looked at him. For a second, she almost said yes. That was the easy answer. The safe answer. The answer that kept life moving. But she was tired of disappearing. So she said, "No." Mark blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean I don't know who I am anymore." The room went silent. Mark didn't know what to say. Neither did Sarah. But once the truth had been spoken, it could not be put back. Over the next few weeks, Sarah began making small changes. Very small. She woke up 30 minutes earlier and wrote one page every morning. Not a good page. Not a perfect page. Just one page. She started walking after dinner instead of scrolling through her phone. She bought a used camera from a small shop downtown. She signed up for a weekend writing class. When she told people, some smiled politely. Others looked confused. A few laughed. "You're starting this now?" one coworker said. Sarah forced a smile. But the words hurt. Because deep down, she had the same fear. Was it too late? Too late to start over? Too late to become creative? Too late to chase a dream? Too late to become someone new? One evening, after a difficult day, Sarah almost quit. She sat at her desk staring at a blank page. The house was quiet. Her confidence was gone. A cruel voice whispered in her mind. You're too old. You wasted your chance. Nobody cares what you have to say. She closed the notebook. Then she saw the letter from her 19-year-old self lying beside it. She picked it up and read the first line again. I hope you didn't forget who we wanted to become. Sarah opened the notebook and wrote one sentence. Then another. Then another. That night, she didn't write because she felt inspired. She wrote because she refused to betray herself again. Months passed. Her writing was not famous. Her photographs were not perfect. Her life was not magically transformed. But something inside her began to wake up. She laughed more. Noticed more. Breathed more deeply. For the first time in years, she felt like she was participating in her own life instead of watching it pass by. Then came the day that changed everything. Her writing teacher announced a local essay competition. The theme was simple. The life I almost forgot to live. Sarah almost didn't enter. Her first thought was, who am I to submit anything? But then another thought came. Who am I not to? So she wrote. She wrote about motherhood, marriage, fear, regret. The quiet sadness of abandoning yourself while still appearing successful to everyone else. She wrote about the morning she couldn't open the car door. The old box. The letter. The first page. The first walk. The first tiny step back toward herself. When she finished, she cried. Not because it was perfect. Because it was true. 3 weeks later, Sarah received an email. She had one. At first, she thought it was a mistake. Then the local newspaper published her essay. Then strangers began writing to her. Women in their 30s. Men in their 50s. Mothers. Fathers. People who had spent years pretending they were fine. They all said versions of the same thing. I thought I was the only one. Sarah read every message. And for the first time, she understood something powerful. The dreams we bury do not die. They wait. Sometimes quietly. Sometimes painfully. But they wait for us to come back. A year later, Sarah published a small book of essays. It didn't make her rich. It didn't make her famous. But it reached the people it was meant to reach. At her first book event, only 14 people came. Sarah stood in front of them nervously, holding the microphone with both hands. She looked at the small audience and almost laughed. At 19, she had imagined success as applause, bright lights, and crowds. At 48, success looked different. It looked like one woman in the front row wiping tears from her eyes. It looked like a man saying, I needed this today. It looked like Sarah standing in her own life again. After the event, an elderly woman approached her. She was around 75, with silver hair and kind eyes. She held Sarah's book against her chest. I always wanted to paint, the woman said. Sarah smiled gently. Do you still want to? The woman looked down. I think I'm too old. Sarah felt the words land in her heart. The same words. The same fear. The same prison. She took the woman's hands and said, You're not too old. You're just alive right now. That means there's still time. The woman began to cry. So did Sarah. Years later, people would ask Sarah when her life changed. They expected her to mention the book. Or the competition. Or the newspaper article. But Sarah always gave the same answer. My life changed the day I stopped waiting to become someone worthy of beginning. Because that was the truth. Most people do not lose their dreams in one dramatic moment. They lose them quietly. They lose them in busy mornings. In unpaid bills. In other people's expectations. In fear of looking foolish. In the belief that starting late is worse than never starting at all. But Sarah learned something most people learn too late. You are not behind. You are not too old. You are not finished. You are not disqualified because life took longer than expected. Some flowers bloom in spring. Some bloom in autumn. But both are still beautiful when they finally open. And if there is still breath in your body, there is still a page you have not written. A road you have not walked. A version of yourself you have not met. So begin. Begin badly. Begin slowly. Begin scared. Begin with one sentence. One walk. One phone call. One decision. One small promise to yourself. Because your life does not need to be perfect before it can become meaningful. And sometimes, the most powerful beginning is the one that happens after you thought it was too late.